Hey, guys.
But it was adopted at first by the Germans, not the British. Postcards warned the population about the shift and why they owed it to their country not to forget. The British followed a few weeks later and didn't miss a chance for a dig at the Germans. America came on board in 1918. As DST spread around the world, countries adopted it, dumped it, or never tried it. Still, the daylight debate rages every year. The arguments exist whether it helps or harms our health and the economy. While the wartime wisdom of saving energy may no longer apply, for many of us, the long summer evenings still endure. The legacy of a war where so much was lost to give us these freedoms. Jim Bolton, CNN, London.
Of course, some people will forget to spring forward and then show up an hour late to something. There are ways to improve your memory. In fact, memory athletes train their brains to compete in memory championships. And a new study that compared the brains of these athletes with people who never practiced memory techniques found no structural differences between the brains. Researchers say it's just about how well trained they are. Nelson Dellis, a four-time USA memory champion, has memorized more than 200 names in 15 minutes and 9 decks of playing cards in 30 minutes. Let's jog his memory about it.
5, 0, 3, 7, 9, 5, 3, 4, 5, 0.
When I tell people about what I do, I get such a big shock.
Oh, you must be some savant or something like that. That's not the case. It's just a technique that's kind of died out because the need is not there. One thing that kind of pushed me along this path is my grandmother, who had been suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And that's part of the reason why I was so concerned for myself and why I got into all of this memory training, because I didn't want that to happen to me. One of the events I train is spoken numbers. So I'm closing my eyes and I'm hearing these numbers come at me 1 digit at a second. And what I do is I'm turning those into pictures. I receive a few digits at a time and I turn that into a picture and then receive another 2 and kind of make a little story and store that along the place. When I'm writing it down, all I'm doing is walking back through that place, picturing who was there, and then translating that back to the numbers that those pictures represent. I can't help it anymore. I look at these numbers and they are people to me. When I see 30, it's Conan O'Brien. Same with my grandmother. She's 175. That's her number. So when she pops up, it's awesome. Any distraction can be detrimental to an event that you're trying to hit the score on. So we try to minimize those distractions. I'll go to a public place and train, or I'll train at high altitude in the mountains. My first kind of big fundraising project was to climb Mount Everest, and I thought it would be a great way to kind of bring Alzheimer's to the top of the world. For the competition, I actually train about 4 to 5 hours a day because I'm trying actively hard to win these competitions. I train my brain in the same sense that you go to the gym or to make your body stronger. I do that for my mind to try and develop that memory and make it stronger. What's scary to me the most about potentially losing memories is not forgetting all the stuff I learned in college or the fact that I was the memory champion, whatever. It's more the small moments with who you love and care about that makes us who we are.
It's really hard to hear and see when you're playing a game with your earbuds in and oh, this one's not in. Come on, you know better. You can do better.
That's how I want you to study for the next test, right there.
Scoring 10 out of 10 on Friday. It's a car, it's a plane, it's both. Or at least it's a concept that could one day be both. At first glance, it looks like when the drone comes up over it and then attaches to the roof,
they're gonna
we
get
have liftoff. The company Intel Design unveiled this idea. It's named
I think that's say no lies. That's
If it's mass produced, it would use artificial intelligence for air and ground transportation. But think of the maintenance. You'd have to get a tire and a propeller rotation. You'd have to check your oil and your air pressure. Drifting could put you away. Police can say you were flying and fainted. And if you're on the road rage, you better maintain a positive altitude, y'all.
Yeah.
We're taking off for the weekend. We hope yours is a great one.
I love the music. Wow. There it goes. Listen to this one about
Okay, let's finish up our notes.
Man, are you gonna post my little classroom?
After I'm done, after we're done.
Because I need I think it was 9 or something.
All right. We've been talking obviously about the Human Development Index. We know that because that's what we're writing our paper about. So we're talking about HDI. We're talking about how do we increase certain things and what do we do to make things better and go forward. And here are 8 goals that have been set up to help with development. So every one of these 3 things or 8 things that we're going to talk about are the goals to improve your HDI. All right? So you could, in your paper, if you're struggling on your paragraph, you could add some of these goals to the paper about, hey, their education isn't good or something like that isn't good. This is one of the goals that they need to focus on. So if you're struggling to get your solid paragraphs in there, include some of the goals in there. All right? So, first goal, end poverty and hunger. What's poverty? It's a low standard of living. People who really don't have much money, not money by our standards, they're just talking about the basic necessities that they need to survive. If you're living below the poverty line, that doesn't mean that you don't have money for a new phone or a new computer or a big screen television or cable television. That means that you don't have money for food, for shelter, for education, for things like that. That is below the poverty line. If you have money to buy a new cell phone, then you're not below the poverty line. All right? Does that make sense? So standard of living covers the basic necessities. Achieve universal primary education. What is primary education? It's basic schooling, but it's more so than that. Primary schooling, if you're in the primary school, it's what? It's like elementary level, like up to like 6th grade. And then you get into kind of secondary, because like 7th through 12th grade is really considered secondary. Kindergarten through 6th grade is considered primary. So in South Asia and Africa, where our poverty lines are the highest, that is one of their goals, is to get primary education there. Now, if we look at most of our Latin America countries are good up until 6th grade. But after that, they die off. So goal is primary education K through 6. All right? So 5 to however. All right? Goal 3, promote gender equality and empower women. So we are seeing in a lot of our countries and a lot of our areas gender differences among women. So they are on the struggle bus in the Middle East, for instance, to get women educated. So what the problem that's happening is that you have these strong people who believe in the strict Muslim law. And what's the name of that? Sharia law. Yeah. And they believe, guys, let's get off of our phones, please. Come on, let's throw away and just listen. All right, so Sharia law, and that's the women issue. That's really where we're struggling to get women that education and that tool. And then reducing child mortality rate. The child mortality rate, we talked about that in population, but the infant mortality rate is declining in most regions except sub-Saharan Africa. That has to do a lot with the pregnancy and the care for the women that are having the babies. They're not getting the proper nutrients they need while they're pregnant, or going through pregnancy, they're struggling. And then you have all the other issues that go along with that. Once they're not getting what they need in the womb, then when they're born with other issues and difficulties. So gender equality and child mortality rate, big pieces, and we know that if we decline on the child mortality rate, you are going to see a decrease in population because they're having less children. Maternal health. This is the mother's health. 500,000 women die annually from complications during pregnancy. That goes with the infant mortality rate. All right. Heather is a big proponent. My wife, obviously, she delivers babies. She always raises great concern when people want to have their baby in the homes, because obviously that's her specialty is having them in the hospital. And they're like, people have been doing it for years. She's like, yes, but the infant mortality rate and the complications that arrive of that are extremely strong. She's like, if you want to have a midwife, you want to do certain things without medication, that's fine, but please do it in the hospital, because if something happens, you're at least there already. Yes?
My aunt just had a baby and she's had at home, but she was at the hospital.
Yes. And that's good that she didn't just say, oh no, I'm going to keep trying to have it at home, and chose to go to the hospital. Combating HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. Okay, we have a big issue with, obviously HIV, AIDS has kind of gone down, but the epidemics and pandemics are huge, absolutely huge. And we talked about those again in the population unit, going through that because we talked about what was the big one? It starts with an E. Ebola. We talked about Ebola being a big issue. So all of these other diseases that are happening as a result really wipe out populations and really destroy the growth within regions and areas. And our last two goals, environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability means what? What does that mean? Keeping it good and clean, not just keeping it good and clean, but it's keeping it so it's livable for years to come. So if we're sustaining the environment, that means that we are going to be good for the earth from now